I'm not usually a fan of simulator games, but I am a massive fan of World War II games, and IL-2 Sturmovich, when modified with the various DLCs that you can get, is absolutely fantastic if you're a World War II enthusiast or just love the experience of flying an airplane around and blowing stuff up. There are various different missions in the game and different ways to play, with campaigns, quick missions and multiplayer modes, as well as a variety of other things and loads of different planes that you can fly both in ground attack roles and in air-to-air combat missions. And it's pretty epic, both in third and first person views, with loads of different planes to choose from. Now, you do have to spend quite a bit of money to get decent planes, but it is really epic. And as you can see, even when you lose and crash, you can do so in magnificent ways, and the level of detail is also fantastic. You'll see planes break apart in fantastic ways, but you'll also see bits get chipped off your airplane, the wings getting shot up full of bullet holes, bits breaking off, making it difficult to fly. And you also have the satisfaction of doing that to the enemy as well. So being in a Spitfire, shooting down a Ju-88 that's trying to drop its bombs on England is pretty special. Then watching in third person view with free look as you watch it go down and then splash into the ground obviously gives you some of the feeling that those pilots must have had protecting their lands during the Second World War. And you have a number of different planes to do this with, all with the different marks and customization of the guns and other bits as well. But if you look at the level of destruction, you see just how many bullet holes just ended up in my wings there. Obviously the plane's in a bad way now, but it's still just about controllable, so you have the thrill of trying to get away from the enemy. The bots are also really good, really give you a fight, and so there's not rubbish AI that you have to deal with either, but you do have the option of taking it into multiplayer mode if you want to, if you feel like you aren't getting enough of a challenge out of these. But we certainly have felt that they are very challenging, as you can see from the various different times where I've ended up just suffering loads of wounds to my plane. You also see the damage levels warn you on the right hand side of what's happened, whether your pilot's been killed, whether your engine's been damaged, and other things like that. Now, usually with simulator games you'll find it's massively overly complicated, very difficult to get into, and pretty unforgiving in a number of ways. This one can be in some of the level of detail, which I'll show in a second, but it's also surprisingly easy to control once you understand how it works, which I found really nice, because this isn't usually my type of game, so I didn't want something overly complicated. And I'll tell you that I've been flying with my mouse, and you can basically get away with mostly using your mouse, apart from some commands on the keyboard to do things like press R to fire rockets, B to drop bombs, and then the various commands to eject or lower your landing gear and things like that as well. But on the face of it, it's very straightforward. You don't need a joystick, you don't need to memorize a million different controls, you can just get stuck in. The other thing you'll see is that you have a variety of different weather conditions and experiences to go through, and you really have to learn how the planes operate and how to fly as well. You'll see I was trying to dive down on those planes but ended up picking up too much speed and then just smashed into the ground at 500 miles an hour because I couldn't pull up fast enough. So it's really good in that regard. And then the other level of detail of realism as well. You're limited by the number of rounds. So you can see I've only got a certain number of rounds in the plane. I actually ran out mid-attack on that boat, had to turn away, and then ended up getting shot up because of it. So you actually are restricted in ammunition, just like the real pilots were during World War II as well. So you have to actually fight like they would have done, conserving ammo and making the most of it, firing in bursts, and then trying to get out of there and get back as well. Other things include, for example, getting into spins that cause you to black out. If you pull too hard G-force, you'll actually end up blacking out, so your pilot blacks out, and you could end up in a spin like this where you literally can't control it. And that is also fantastic. You lose in a spectacular way. When I first started playing the game and was looking at the controls, I was overwhelmed by how many there are. You'll see just how many different controls there are that require different button combos. So left and right alt and controls, plus other buttons to do a variety of different things. This resulted in me initially struggling with it, but what you've got to realise is actually fairly easy because you can eventually get the hang of it and fly with just your mouse. The other thing to keep in mind is that some of the missions require a lot of flying from one place to another. which I'll get to in a second. But you can also modify your planes in a number of different ways, whether it's injecting different fuel types, putting on different gun sights, equipping it with different weapon types, whether it's rockets and bombs or extra ammunition or cannons or whatever else. And that's pretty cool, modifying in that way. But then you have to take off from the runway, fly a long distance over to France, for example, carry out your mission, and then try and survive, and then fly all the way back, and then hopefully land successfully at the other end. And that is some of the campaign missions and some of the different game types that you can play, in that it requires a lot of that, which again is realistic because it's basically the same sort of thing that those pilots have had to go through. The boredom of doing the initial bit of the flight, the tedium of flying over the ocean, and basically ended up just getting a little bit of scrap and then hopefully getting home. Now, there is an autopilot mode, so you can put it into autopilot and you can actually get it to do the takeoff bit and the flying, and then you just have to keep an eye out for when you're getting close to your objective. But you could find that you're flying 20 minutes in the real world, just sitting there going through the clouds before you end up getting anywhere near your objective, and then you start to go down and get into that mission and carry it out. And if you die, then that's quite frustrating. If you survive and then manage to get home, that would be fine. You do get to see sort of a feed of how well you've done, so you can get an idea of that as well, and that's good. But it can be frustrating when you do lose. Now, there are quick play missions, so you can also just dive straight into a mission. You can choose what you're doing as well, so there's some nice bits there where you could just get straight into a dogfight, for example, without the initial flying. So it's not all like that. So there are a variety of different ways, but it isn't an arcade experience is what I'm trying to get across. If you want an arcade experience, you're not necessarily going to get that here, but you will get a pretty awesome experience, because I've had some even where I've done that, completed a mission, flown home, and then crashed on the airfield on the way back, or run out of fuel and ended up having to ditch in a field. So I've got some pretty fun sort of stories out of it and experiences, even when things have gone horribly wrong, and then you have to do the mission over again or whatever else. Learning when to drop your bombs, where the rockets will hit, how much you can get away with squeezing on the cannon before you run out of shells, the handling characteristics of the different planes. It's all really good. You do sink a lot of time into it, so it's not a jump in, jump out sort of game that you can just dabble in for 5 minutes. If you really want to get stuck into it, you have to spend quite some time playing, but it's great in that way. So what you've seen actually requires IL-2 Sturmovich Battle of Stalingrad as the base game, which you'll see was released in 2014, which is pretty nuts. But then it's been upgraded, so I've got a number of different DLCs which I've had to buy. So in order to use various different planes and get into the battles, you'll see that we need the Battle of Normandy, for example, the Overlord campaign. Also bought Spitfires, so I've got the Spitfires here. You have to have Battle of Stalingrad, obviously, as the starter pack for that, which is a lot of Russian missions, but then you can go in and you can get other ones. So there's more Spitfires to buy, but there's also Focke-Wulf 190, American planes, and other things. So it's one of those games that you can spend a lot of money on in terms of the DLC, because there is a lot of DLC in it. You'll see if you go through the list what this is and just how much it adds up to. Ends up being quite a lot. You can see some of them are 10, 20, 60 pounds, that one. There's a lot of money to it. You can also get tanks, so you can actually drive tanks in the game as well, which isn't something I've done because I want to stick to the air stuff, but you'll see there's actually tank missions, and you can get hurricanes. But look at how much that you could potentially spend there. You end up spending a fortune if you want to upgrade it to the max, as with all simulators. I checked, by the way, and it's about $1,000 you'd end up spending if you bought all the DLC. I certainly haven't done that. I bought a lot of the British stuff. I probably spent about 100, maybe 150, so it's a lot of money. But it ended up giving you access to all these things, because the base game you're just playing in Stalingrad with Russian planes or German planes. So if you want to use the American and the British planes, you have to get the extra DLC in order to do it. But it's a lot of fun, as you can see. A great game. It's well worth getting. Watch out for it when it's on sale as well, because it doesn't go on sale regularly. But the fact that it sticks at the top price actually shows how good it is consistently. It's also been overhauled a lot since it launched, and as you can see, it looks fantastic. I've been playing it at 4K with the settings cranked all the way up, and it looks stunning in the variety of different planes. all different sorts of weather conditions, and I can't recommend it enough. This is a great game, well worth checking out. This has been The Provoked Prawn. Thanks for watching.